Pete Thamel, senior writer for Sports Illustrated, a guy that understands exactly how frustrating the brackets could have been this year. If you look at his upset picks from previously on this show, and Brockman is feeling the sting of that. He will be when he puts on the makeup too, the clown makeup.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
clown makeup.
But
thanks a lot, Pete.
Pete, I want to welcome you, and I appreciate you coming on the show again.
Jay, thank you for having me. I will say this to Chris, that when I went on the show a week or 2 weeks ago, right after the bracket came out, I said the only prediction here that will be true is that I will be almost wrong with all of my picks. And that was my only accurate prediction.
Yeah.
I did hit a couple, though. I
You
mean,
hit
I had
two.
Middle
Middle,
Tennessee, Rhode Island. I like both of those.
Yeah. No, those weren't terrible, but like
Notre Dame to the Elite Eight. That one hurt.
Yeah. That one didn't go well. That one didn't go well. Last year was anomalous, though. I was not naive enough. This is what look. 2 weeks ago, I woke up in Dayton at the first four. If I was really good at picking games, I'd be in a penthouse in Vegas, and so I'm going to be feeding grapes. So I think at the end of the day, you can only if you were really good at picking, you'd be doing it professionally. You wouldn't be
Absolutely.
Platinum Marriott staying in El Paso. So it is what it is.
For you, Pete, what's the most disappointing team? We talked about Kansas and their run and how strong they were playing, but in general, looking at the entirety of the tournament, who for you stood out as the most disappointing?
Well, it's a good question. I would think that I think you probably have to start with Arizona just because of the way the bracket opened up for them.
Mm-hmm.
And losing to a very good 11 seed. Xavier was a preseason top 10 type team who had some injuries, and Chris Mack did a wonderful job. But I really think if you sat here last week and said, okay, who is the world opened up for? It would have been Arizona, and obviously I think they had an 8-point lead with 3 minutes to go, and Sean Miller is sort of in that excruciating club of guys who are the best in the business but still haven't made a Final Four. So I would think from the big picture there. And then look, in Bill Self's track record as a 1 seed in this game, he called it the toughest game in the tournament. I saw in an article in the Washington Post. His track record as a 1 seed is not great. It's not what it should be statistically as a 1 seed. And you obviously saw Michigan State sitting there early as a potential bugaboo for them, and then they played so well against Purdue. They just hammered a very good Purdue team, ran them off the court, and then, quite frankly, they got run off the court by Oregon. Jordan Bell has become my favorite player in this whole NCAA tournament. He's just been, you talk about a guy who's obviously a very good glue guy role player. I think he's 22 for 30, averaging 12.5 and 12.5. So when you really look at a guy who killed Kansas's dreams, I think you begin with Jordan Bell. But I would think, Virginia has to be disappointed scoring 39 points, right? And that's just what an awful.
But they were a
way
defensive team. I look at a team like Duke as well, Pete. Obviously they were up and down all year, but came in on such a high run, and then to lose to a game, obviously South Carolina team. But it was set up for them. Villanova loses, and it's set up for them to run through and to get into that Final Four. What player do you think helped themselves the most? I'm with you. I love Bell. We talked about him earlier and what that Oregon team has. Who's helped themselves the most in this tournament?
If you want to talk about in terms of one singular player who's helped himself the most, I'm just scrolling through my bracket here. A player who I really like, who's not high on NBA radars, who's really had a nice tournament, is Justin Jackson in North Carolina. He's the kind of guy who you could just see being a 7th or 8th man on an NBA team for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he played great yesterday. Scrolling through my bracket, I think Trevon Blewett of Xavier, had a really nice tournament. I think he'd be nuts to go pro now, but I think he could be a kind of guy who's a first-team All-American going in next year. In terms of pure NBA stock, I think De'Aaron Fox from Kentucky may have just solidified. He was always going to be a top 7-8 pick or whatever, but just the sheer athleticism, the John Wallness of kind of his game. Now, look, he is raw. He had a couple 3-point attempts yesterday that sort of made you wince on the couch and need to go to the chiropractor the way they hit the backboard. But just the number he did on Lonzo Ball, he literally ran circles around him. That's not an exaggeration. So I was really impressed by him. I thought Malik Monk struggled with some size, and that's going to always kind of be the knock on him. So those are a few guys. Well, I'll tell you this: you talk to enough NBA scouts, and they don't really look at the tournament any different than they look at some, bye game in November. Like, a guy can surge to the forefront perception-wise. I mean, these guys are in the gym all year. They see him in the summer. They kind of know what they're doing. So you can't really overreact to a great tournament performance. Certainly it helps, but you'd think guys at this point, veteran scouts aren't going to read too much. Like, Swanigan from Purdue was obviously awesome, until that Kansas game. And I don't think he was a double-double machine all year. Right. I don't think you overweight what he did against Kansas versus overrate what he did in those early games.
When you look at this Final Four, you have 3 newbies and then you have North Carolina. How much is that experience going to help North Carolina being in the championship game last year, losing on that final shot, the drive that it creates in them, but also the experience knowing when they have a situation like they did in that last game, being able to have the composure to go down the field, go down the court, hit a shot at the end of the game, win that game. How much do you see that being an advantage over the other 3 teams?
You're showing your background there, Jay.
Yeah, exactly, the field.
I wrote this today doing our Final Four picks for SI.com. I think it's unquantifiable, just putting into perspective, getting so close and losing and then bringing back that many veteran guys, if that makes sense. Like, there's no way to there's no Ken Pom metric to put into place getting that close and getting your heart crushed in a Game of Thrones fashion, if you will, to reference your previous conversation. And then to have the fortitude to come all the way back. And what that teaches you, it's sort of a resiliency born through failure. And there's just no other team in the tournament has anything comparable to that. And that's why I think North Carolina is going to cut down the nets on Monday night. But another reason, too, it's an interesting little trend here in the Final Four. There's maybe one potential one-and-done player here, Big Collins from Gonzaga. You look at the Carolina players, and they are all the same guys you remember from last year. It's Justin Jackson. It's Kennedy Meeks. It's Isaiah Hicks. They have a Nate Britta, a senior guard who comes off the bench a lot. It is still, in a lot of ways, college basketball a veterans game, even though we get infatuated with the one-and-dones, the Kentucky guys, and everything like that. If you look at this Final Four, it is a testament to sort of hard work and failure forging a toughness and a resiliency to get you to this point. And Ajay, I think that's a great point. As someone obviously in your career, you had a lot of big wins and tough losses, and you sort of it all blends together, within a team and to prepare you for the moment. And I think North Carolina is most prepared for this moment.
We're speaking with Pete Thamel on the Rich Eisen Show. Appreciate it. I'm Jay Feely. Pete, I think you're right. I think when you fail and you overcome that failure and it doesn't defeat you, that's when it allows you to become your very best. I see the same thing with North Carolina. Is this time for Gonzaga? Can they make this run? It's been so long. They've been in 18 straight NCAA tournaments. They finally get to a Final Four. They've had a number 1 seed this year. Can they make this run, finish it off, get to the finals, and win this?
Absolutely. There is no reason Gonzaga cannot win this. And I think they're the second best team. If you watch this Gonzaga team at all this year, they have unbelievable size. They have unbelievable talent. They have unbelievable athleticism. And they have unbelievable age. Yeah. Yes. Like Nigel Williams-Goss played with that entire game on a string the other night. I mean, he was in full, complete control of the game like you would expect from a battle-tested 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-old, whatever he is. And then you see the kid Matthews, who hits the winning shot from the left wing the other night, Jordan Matthews. He is, a former player at Cal who grad transferred to Gonzaga to win. Like, you don't go to Spokane for the scenery. You go there to win. And it was a culture move based on the culture that Mark Few has built up. Matthews is the son of Phil Matthews, who's the old University of San Francisco coach for years. You got a coach's kid who grew up in a coach's family who said, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to develop and help myself professionally. But he really went there for this moment. And they are big, they are old, they are tough, and there aren't a ton of weaknesses. I mean, you get those 2 bigs from Gonzaga, my gosh. They are a physical brute force, which is why I think South Carolina will struggle with them, because you literally cannot push them around.
Yeah, I'm with you. Pete, thanks so much for coming on. It was great to have you. Look forward to seeing you down in Phoenix for the Final Four, and should be a great one. We'll see if your pick, North Carolina, can go all the way. I kind of have a feeling that's what they're going to do as well. They got the experience, and I think in the end that's what comes through. But appreciate all your insight.
Hey, Jay, thank you. Chris, thanks, bud.
See you, bud.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.